Welcome back, design students. So the next thing we need to create for the lightsaber is the little control box. Look at my reference images, this nice blueprint that I found, and I can see that mine is 17 millimeters tall by 49 millimeters long. And its width is, wow, it has every measurement except that, but I can at least get some idea. 17 by 49. And we can also look at, I found this image of that part of it, and you can see it has this little plate that slides open and two buttons and then two little lights, I guess, that have to do with status of it. And so I think, and it also comes out of this ring here, so I think what I'm going to do is create a reference box and then just extrude what I want out of this these top polygons here, so it's part of it. So I'm going to start by creating a cube. And I'm going to go to the Polycube node in my attributes editor. Remember, you can also do that in your channel box by clicking right here on the inputs and on the width. And if you select the width and hold down your middle mouse button, you can see that that is that dimension. And we said that was 49, so I'm going to go 4.9. And then the height was 1.7. 17. And I guess the depth was something like that, maybe. Now let's put this up on top of our lightsaber and see if that makes sense. Check the reference images in PureRef. And if you look at this one, you can see that it's really close to the edge there, and it takes up a big chunk of the top of the lightsaber. And if you check the blueprint that I found here, we can see that it's not but 2 millimeters from the front edge, and it's all the way to the back edge, like there. So that's about right. Now I think it's an interesting design choice because I can't imagine holding this thing very long with that sticking into the palm of my hand. But we need an edge loop right here, so I'm going to go to Mesh Tools and insert an edge loop right there and right here and right here. And now I can grab these faces here and get the move tool and shift move them, extrude them up. And then I can use my scale tool with them still selected. I'm not holding down shift, and scale them in the z-axis or the y-axis to flatten them out. I'm going to make this a little bit shorter because it has kind of a plate that sits on top of it. Okay, we don't need this box anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, I'm going to go to this edge, this one, and move it out a little bit to this, closer to that edge, and move that out a little bit closer to that edge, because I'm going to switch to face mode and extrude these faces upward. Now this face, I'm going to extract, so I'm going to hold down shift, right click, and extract this face, or these faces. And go to my channel box, and there's the new group, and that is what I just extracted. So I'm going to move this up a little bit, and then I'm going to shift right click. Actually, no, I'm just going to hold shift with these faces selected and hold it and extrude it up a little bit so that it's like a little plate. And then I'm going to put a whole bunch of edge loops in here and extrude them up because that thing has a bunch of little ridges on it. So I'm going to go to going to switch to edge mode. I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, and I'm going to bring up the options. And I'm going to insert multiple edge loops, and I'm going to insert maybe 25. And that's probably about right. Okay, so now that we have these edges, or these edges in here, we can use these faces to make our ridges, but we're going to have to do each one individually. It's going to be a bit of a pain. But there's a way we can make it quicker. I'm going to select two of the faces, shift right click, and I'm going to bring up the extrude face options by clicking on the little box right here. And then in here I'm going to create some settings. I'm going to make sure that the settings that are reset, you can do that by clicking on Edit, Reset Settings. And then on offset, I've already played around with this a little bit, and I'm going to make it 0.02, and I'm going to make this 0.03. This is the height of the extrusion, and this is the value of the inset. And if I click Apply, you can see what that does. And it didn't close my extrude menu, it just did it. Now, if I didn't like that, then what I would do is I would select the Select tool to sort of turn off the process, and then I would hit Command Z or Control Z to undo it, and then I would try again. Maybe I would try 0.02 and click Apply. And that's how I arrived at these settings. Okay, once you have that, then you can click Close and click a tool to accept the process, and then select two more faces and hit G on your keyboard. And what that does is that repeats the last process. But the settings have to be done, from scratch. So each time I'm selecting two new faces and hitting G. G repeats the last command, or the last process. So that saved us a little bit of time. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the Move tool and double click this bottom edge here to select that whole border and pull that in a little bit. Switch to Object Mode, and notice where my pivot is now in Object Mode. So that's the case where we have to recenter the pivot. Go into Modify, Center Pivot. Then I want to move this back down into here. Now this thing has a little slot cut in these two side pieces here, and I'm going to fix that, but I'm going to wait and do that when we come back. So when we come back, I'm going to cut this little slot in these side rails, and I'm going to make the buttons and put them on there. And I'll see you then.